It's time, beginning of 2024, time for an updated, top to bottom, full left to right, room and rack, complete discussion and home theater tour. Let's get started. All right, here we go. So I do live in Michigan. We have the luxury of basements, and my theater room is in fact in the basement. Not a whole lot going on in our basement. It is a finished space, but I have a couple kids, and this space largely serves as just a play area right now. So this is the entryway. I haven't doctored it up. In the long run, we'll be doing some interesting things, more entertainment, adult entertainment type things in our basement. But for now, fairly nondescript. Maple doors with those glass panels. So my room was never intended to be a home theater. I would say roughly 6 years ago now. I finally got the go-ahead from my spouse, from my wife, to convert this room from what was effectively an empty home gym, an unused room intended to be a home gym workout space, into the home theater. And then roughly 2 years ago from now, we did a complete redesign, or almost re-implementation, I guess you could say, of the room. I put in all the architectural speakers and so on. So structurally, when I had the inclination to start this project, I did so not building it out from the studs. It was already finished, it was drywalled, it was trimmed, the doors were here. Decisions were made in this space that I wouldn't have made if I had kind of freedom to do it as a home theater from the very beginning. So case in point, number one, glass panels in the doors. Don't want that in a home theater. So I just did some little kind of static vinyl and some acoustic panels on the back, basically blackened out the door opening. The other thing that I contend with in here, and it is earlier in the day at this moment, so you can see some light shining through, that is a very big glass block window that I certainly would not have installed in this room if we had inclination to make it a theater to begin with. I have tried some options in the past to black out that window. It didn't work so well. It actually led to condensation and collection of some water up there. Not good, not good in a basement at all. So I've settled just on kind of the light curtains. It's winter time now, but in the summer when the landscaping is growing, there's a bunch of plants and stuff outside that black out that window for me, and I don't have to worry about it too much. We only tend to really use the room in the evening, later at night when it's dark outside and it's fully blacked out and darkened in here. We are looking at a room that's, I'd say, roughly 19 deep. The throw distance dimensioned by about 18 wide, give or take a few inches. There is a soffit in the back there, close to an 11-foot ceiling to the height of the highest part, and then of course a little bit less in the soffit area in the back. That soffit area carries a lot of home mechanicals in it. There's HVAC ducting that goes through there, and we do have a geothermal heating and cooling system, and unfortunately the tubes that carry the fluid out to the rings in the backyard flow through that soffit. Again, another one of those things, if this was a theater from day one, house design construction, wouldn't have put all of those mechanicals in there. And just on the other side of this wall as well is actually our mechanical room where the furnace itself sits. So if I ever have my druthers and we tear the whole thing down to the studs, there'll be some things to do, some things to silence, and improvements to be made, but as it is, so be it. Lighting is all recessed. There are 9 can lights up in the ceiling, all spread apart. We kept it pretty bright in here because, again, we were originally intending to work out, but it's nice, it's comfortable. The room is dimmable. There is only one lighting zone though. There used to be a ceiling fan as well that was taken out. That's that black cap in the middle there. Didn't need the ceiling fan in the theater space. So we are pretty much fully blacked out in here. Sherwin-Williams flat tricorn black paint. Careful, you got to be real careful touching it. It scuffs very easily, but it's really nice. That's the same paint across all the walls and the ceiling. The trim was originally painted white. It was painted with an oil-based paint, and I was not in for sanding that stuff down to repaint the trim. I left the trim white, and it actually does give it a little bit of a nice contrast when the lights are on. I'm okay with a little bit of white showing through. It certainly doesn't impact the picture quality and such when the lights are off and the movie is playing. This is really a bat cave in that situation, despite even some of the white elements. One of the other kind of room install things that you'll note is the use of the curtains. So along the front of the wall, kind of behind the screen is floating out in space a little bit. Down the side walls and around the baseboard are these curtains. I had a local seamstress sew all of this stuff up. The curtains go all the way around the baseboard to the back. They carry along the back wall. They cover actually what is a closet door behind the projector, and then around to the side and all the way back to the door as well. So they're there for aesthetics. These are velvety black style curtains. They hang nicely. The pleats and stuff are sewn into them. She did a really great job. They're fastened to the wall just based on some dimensional lumber that's screwed in, and then it's kind of like Velcro strips nailed into the wood, and then Velcro strips sewn on to the back of the curtains. Sticks up very nicely. But the real kicker, the real benefit of the curtains is that they also hide all my cable runs. So I can still get access to my outlets, which are all hidden around the room, and my cable runs, speaker wire, HDMI to the projector, Ethernet to the projector, all of that, the XLR cables to the subwoofers as well, all of it hidden in those channels, easily accessible. If I need to pull new wire, change stuff, I can do it. Worked very nicely. And again, because of the not wanting to tear too much stuff up element of building the room out, I thought this was a really great compromise, and I've been very happy with it as a solution. Let's talk about room treatments. You can see quite a few of them. If I start here, let's start on the front wall. Actually, it's all GIK. We've got two corner bass traps stacked on each other in each corner. Some of them do have different fill. There's some range limiting fill and stuff like that in some versus others. These are the 242 panels along the sidewall, 3 of those. There's 2 of the board, what I think they call the monster bass traps in the back, and those do have some diffusion and scatter plates built into them underneath the fabric. And then around the corner again, those stacked corner traps, 3 more panels in parallel on the other side, and then the final stacked pair of bass traps in the front left corner. There are a couple of 2x2 foot panels up on the wall back there. That's a combination of foam underneath and some slatted diffusion up above. Honestly, those aren't necessarily there so much for acoustics as they were covering blemishes between version 1 and version 2 of the room in the project. The other thing, of course, up overhead, more of these multi-dimensioned scatter 2x2 foam panels. There's 8 of them all together. They're kind of symmetrically laid out in terms of the directions that they're facing and whatnot. But again, all GIK. It's good. I definitely have some areas of concern with GIK. I didn't like that they came with the name tag, the white name tags, like logo tags glued on. I definitely had some quality control or areas or opportunity for improvement in some of these panels, but they certainly get the job done. I am very happy absolutely with their performance, and certainly happy relative to what they cost. It was definitely a lot of value for the money. I bought effectively 2 of their room kits, and then plus a couple of extra items on top of that. Absolutely treat your room. It's the one thing that made the biggest difference in the performance of the space. Absolutely and completely transformative. One more structural thing maybe I should have put in before we started talking about panels is the flooring. If you noticed when we were outside of the room, there's a wood floor outside that's an engineered, a mix of like an engineered solid hickory wood floor. It actually did come all the way in here as well. So we're talking about standing right now on a concrete subfloor with a floating hickory floor, a thick pad, and then this carpet. It probably looks lighter in the video than it does in person. It's a deeper gray, essentially thicker pile. Mohawk, I believe, is the brand of the carpet. And then I do have this big shaggy black rug that I added a little later on. It just helps to serve to kind of more blacken up the full front of the room. The light bouncing down off the screen creates a little more contrast even. This is, again, a full, deep, dark black rug. Nothing really special about the rug, just picked up at an online rug retailer, but pretty sizable rug overall. Seating. This was a new addition just within the last year to the space. We used to have a couch in here, an IKEA couch. Now we have a row of 5 chairs of the Audio Advice Revelation seats. These are just fantastic seats. I'm very happy with this upgrade. I have such a better commanding, immersive connection to the screen, sitting higher, sitting up more engaged when I watch the content. Of course, these are all motorized and controlled. They have, they go back, the feet come up, they have headrest, and they have lumbar controls. They do have lights, which are fully defeatable. As you can see, there are nothing is illuminated right now. We generally just leave the lights off. There's really very little reason generally to use the lights other than to maybe turn them on if have people coming in to kind of show off the room or something. But you definitely never turn the lights on during a video. We did go with a combination set where we did a 2 armchair and then 2 love seats on either side. That does create a little bit of an extra gap, of course, between that center seat and then the next one over to it. I'm okay with that, actually. It creates a little more of an air gap around the main seat, the captain's chair, the main point of calibration, audio calibration for the room. So it's a little bit more of that surround sound can kind of get through and get around, but we're still sitting close to everybody. Gives a little bit of extra space to set stuff down, a couple of extra cup holders. And so I think doing it this way actually turned out really great. Wire management on the chairs is all nice and clean. They're all powered and plugged into basically a power strip that's tied up underneath the main chair in the center. You can see just one lone cable going out over here underneath the curtains, plugging into the wall, and all the power cords and cable management for the other chairs runs underneath the flaps, kind of hidden away behind. No big deal really back here anyway. There's really very little reason to come stand or for anybody to access the space behind the chairs in the room. I'm usually the only one that ever does. If I'm doing demos or something and maybe I'm standing back there while a bunch of other people are sitting, but we only have the 1 row. No real need, desire, or anything to push into multiple rows in here at all. We're sitting about 12.5 feet back, eyes to screen, maybe closer to 13 if you're more fully reclined. And we are looking at effectively 163-inch scope screen. We'll come back to that in just a moment. The other thing you'll see, kind of a little bit of a mountain of pillows and blankets. The blankets are hand crocheted by my aunt, very sizable blanket, big enough to cover 2 people sitting on one of those sofas. The big pillows, very comfortable, some side support and whatnot. We used them more so when we had the couch, but it did decide to leave them in here because we also enjoy using them on the chairs, particularly on the sofa sides, that the pillows can go in between 2 people, give you a little bit of extra something to kind of lean on and support with each other. The pillows are just from Target. I think they're 18-inch, 20-inch, maybe square. My son picked them out, combination of like kind of the shaggy edges and then the more furry style pillow. Again, bringing a little bit of color, just a little bit of color. You can see adding in some of that purple here, or wine color, whatever you want to call it. All right, so let's talk about this screen. Seymour AV, acoustically transparent, 163-inch cinema scope. Now, I'm not using the whole screen space. I do have a JVC NX7 Projector. It does not have the throw distance as I have it set up, maximizing the space that I have to completely fill this screen when zoomed in for a scope image. And so I do have a small, roughly 5-inch panel to blacken out the distance that I can't fill. In the future, I do expect to be able to fill this screen size either through a new projector, or one way or another. But the reason, I guess you might ask, well, why did you buy a screen size that you can't fill? Well, version 1.0 of the theater actually had a 16:9 screen that was 135-inch diagonal. And when I changed from 16:9 to scope, I did not want to go into a smaller 16:9 image. I felt that was a trade-off that I didn't want to make. I figured at some point in time, I'll be able to fill the scope, and I wanted to keep the same height, and so I did. I do also have the panels. I keep them right back here, kind of hidden behind the curtain. If you can see that, there is 2 panels angled up here against the wall. Those are the Seymour panels that would convert the screen from scope back to 16:9. So if we are watching 16:9 content, I can very quickly grab those out, toss them in. They have little slats and magnets to hold them up, and it works great. This again is the Center Stage XD acoustically transparent material woven screen. It is a fantastic screen. I highly recommend this brand. I have been completely happy with it. The installation, how it went together, how it looks, how it performs. I don't see any weave. I think the brightness, the gain, everything that we get in here is fantastic by virtue of the fact that it is a very dark blackened room when content is playing. I just love it. As I mentioned, still a little bit older model on the projector now, aging model, JVC NX7. I'm on my second bulb, although it was a relatively new replacement. I do look forward at some point in time, most likely to upgrading this to a laser model, probably feeling inclined to skip the NZ generation at this point, wait and see what comes next. But I don't feel a major drive to have to upgrade the projector. I'd love an NZ9, absolutely, but the NX7 is a workhorse. Fantastic HDR performance. Again, with the blackness that I get, my brightness, even on the large screen, is acceptable. It works really well. And the picture quality, of course, is just JVC awesome. All right, command and control in the theater is via Control4. There is a Control4 dimmer switch in the bank right there. And I do have now the Halo Touch remote control. Really like the Halo, such a significant improvement over the Neo, but we use this to basically command and control the entire room. Sources, we'll get to that here coming up, but I do primarily use an Apple TV and a Kaleidescape in here, sometimes a PC for gaming, but there are some shortcuts and programming for lighting scenes, as well as installation mode lens memory recall on the projector. So no video processor, at least yet, no Lumagen, no MadVR, but I do take advantage of lens memories to be able to get a variety of aspect ratio zoom levels out of the projector. There's a good bit of programming set up in here, of course, with the Kaleidescape. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the rack, but take advantage of as much as you can when you have the ability with a device like that. So lights on and off automatically with playback, lights come on when the credits roll, and some other really cool elements. Audio is 7.4.4. It is Focal 1000 series, in-wall based, the entire room. Behind the screen, and I'll overlay a picture because I'm not taking the screen down just for the sake of this tour video, but suffice to say, behind the screen are 3 of their awesome IW-LCR6 models, flanked by a bunch of just stuck-on thin acoustical padding. On the base, on the bed layer, the side surrounds and rear surrounds, there's a pair there, the white of IW6s, and another pair over on this left-hand side. Yeah, I understand. I haven't painted the grills. It's been a while. Honestly, I don't mind the white. And when I tour the room and I show it off to people, it's very easy for folks to come in and say, you know, if it's black, it's an acoustical treatment. If it's white, it's a speaker. So I kind of like being able to say it that way. Up overhead, we have 4 rounds. Those are ICW 6s with rotatable and directional tweeters basically on the stalks in the middle. So again, 7.4.4 Atmos audio. I used to take a bunch of flack in the comments that, hey, you know, maybe you mounted your bed layers too high Well, now I definitely don't think they're too high. Long ago, I made the video about how they were in spec for Dolby standards and whatnot, but especially now that we have the chairs, I'm happy where the height of the speakers landed. Of course, these all have directional tweeters or directional tweeter / mid-range. So everything is pointed in and around at or around the area of that center seat. I do calibrate primarily for the center 3 seats using Anthem Arc. I'll talk more about the Anthem gear when we get to the rack, but just absolutely fantastic calibration and audio integration results using that, and the sound, the channel separation, dynamics, clarity, everything is just top notch. Subwoofers, now happy to say, running 4 of the same make, 4 of the exact same model of subwoofers. These are SVS SB16 Ultras, 1 in each corner of the room. I do have the grills on, the metal grills, so there's front left, front right, and if we'll come back around again, here, squeak by the chair without bumping the acoustical panels. We have a back and a back. Absolutely fantastic subwoofers. There's far more bass power output capable from these subwoofers than even the room can handle. Something I'll have to address in the future, again, if I ever do rebuild the space, is getting buttoning everything down in a whole new way. But the bass feel, tactile is sensational. These things shake the chairs. They hit you right in the gut. And if I pull something up like the Edge of Tomorrow intro and really crank it, I can send a lot of things around this room and outside of it rattling quite heavily. So more than enough bass power for the room. And of course, having 4 really isn't even necessarily about volume and output. It's about integration. And there's very different response from the subs that are in the front to the subs that are in the back. They complement, the locations complement each other quite nicely. The subs in the front are able to go much lower, but they fall out a little bit mid-range because of the room's dynamics. The subs in the back, though, they bring in that mid-range bass, but they fall off in the low end. So always want to go multi-sub, 2, 4 if you can, in your home theaters. Before we do change rooms and go look at the electronics in the rack, just a little bit of a sitting point vantage view here of the system turned on. Of course, I don't have the lights fully off, and it is daytime, so slightly dim, stayed on the light, a little bit of light coming in, but there you go, that beautiful Kaleidescape UI, absolutely elegant, fantastic, and native scope widescreen UI as well. So Kaleidescape is what we primarily use as our movie watching platform of choice in here, but do have the Apple TV as well, because Kaleidescape doesn't get you everything, of course, that you may want to consume in a home theater space like this. All right, we'll walk the rack here, walk the electronics from top to bottom. At the very top, gaming PC, custom built, RTX 4090 MSI Gaming X Trio. I do occasionally run that into the theater room. I do primarily game in the living room, but it is an option for me to do some awesome high-end gaming in the theater room as well. Synology NAS, 8 bay, have about 5 drives in it. I do have some rips on there. Primarily, again, we use the Kaleidescape. I'm not into the DIY ripping scene in earnest in any way, but the Synology NAS holds a variety of important things, personal things, pictures, and so on. And there are still some movies and whatnot that have come out on disc that are not available on Kaleidescape, not even available on digital platforms. And so I do have a little pocket of content still on the NAS, old things that may have more or less been lost to time. There's the Apple TV that serves the theater room, and there it is, the Kaleidescape. Nice, awesome rack mount setup that is a Strato C player flanked by a compact Terra 12 terabytes. I've had this for a little while. I've been a Kaleidescape owner, user for several years now. I've had this system that is not a Prime Terra. I don't feel a super compelling need to upgrade to the Prime. This thing already downloads movies in about 12 minutes. 12 terabyte is a lot of space, 200 movies. I have umpteen hundred movies in my library with them, but plenty of space for us to cycle things out and use it. I'm going to ignore the devices on the left. This is the home theater tour, and those devices actually serve my living room setup. So let's get here to the brain, the audio brain of the whole system, Anthem AVM 90. I've owned Marantz, multiple Marantz preamps in the past. I had an AVM 70 for a couple of years there. Recently was able to make the upgrade to the 90 in conjunction with getting the 4 subwoofers. Absolutely fantastic. This is an endgame preamplifier for me. You don't really go much higher than this unless you go to Storm or Trinoff. And honestly, for my room, its size, its logistics, its channel count, this is an endgame level piece. Just absolutely fantastic. Works great, sounds impeccable. Love it in every regard. Then below that, of course, we have the amplifiers. This is a totally separate space system. Now running 2 NAD M28 amplifiers, Class D Purify amps for all of the channels in the theater. Absolutely fantastic. There's no noise floor in there. You got to walk up to those speakers and peg your ear into the tweeters to hear even the slightest bit of hiss. Immense amount of power. Absolutely fantastic match. Anthem plus Focal plus NAD is just an absolute match made in heaven. So that's 2 7 channels, 14 channels of amps, even though I only need 11, technically speaking, for the theater. So I've got 3 extra channels. Maybe down the road, if there's some type of an upgrade or whatnot, who knows? I've got flexibility to be able to buy amp my LCRs, but the IW LCR6s unfortunately don't let you buy amp. There are some things that do serve the theater. On the left side, there's some power conditioning. Basically, a Furman is where the amplifiers are plugged into for protection and power filtering. And then the very bottom is a CyberPower UPS that runs the preamp and basically everything but the amplifiers. And then lastly, I mentioned Control4. Here's the EA5 controller, runs the whole house, but of course, in addition, runs the theater, all controlled through that Halo remote. The rack is a double. It's from Snap AV. It's a strong, not necessarily the brand, but strong XL, I believe it is, model rack. Love the way this looks. This is in a separate room, of course, from the theater. Adjacent to it, just on the other side of this wall, is the theater, and just on the other side of this wall is where the screen of the theater is mounted. So I lucked out in that regard in terms of the adjacency of where the gear ended up to where the theater room itself ended up. And if we look here a little bit, just kind of around the back of the rack, we can see there's my punch through where all of the speaker wire, the 4 subwoofer XLR cables, the HDMI cables, and so on go through to get to the room, and a little bit of a back of the rack shot. There's the Kaleidescape hanging in their rack mount. We keep going down. There's the back of the AVM 90, and then down into the NAD amplifiers. Most of my cables, I don't spend a lot on cables. I don't really feel the need to do so. We're talking XLR cables from Amazon, world's best with Mogami wire. Speaker cable is 100% copper, just monoprice, 14 gauge. HDMI cables from Infinite and RUI Pro, and then just a combination of Amazon power cables, shorter ones for specific distances, trying to clean up the rack. Ethernet cables, I believe, just from Monoprice. So there you go, the full state, the full gamut, the full run of the Techthusiasm dedicated home theater space, early 2024. I absolutely love this space. I'm giddy and happy every time that we're able to get down here for movies. The only thing I could possibly complain about is just because of life and work and everything else going on, kids and whatnot, is we don't use the room as much as we might like to, which I think is a common story for a lot of people that do build the dedicated spaces. But it's just amazing. Performance is fantastic. I will take this over going to a commercial theater any time, any movie. I don't even really go to the commercial theater anymore. Generally avoid it. I'm completely content to wait until something is available, usually early release on the Kaleidescape. Download the movie, buy the movie, and good to go. Of course, this hobby has levels. There's always more stuff to consider. There's always more stuff to do. But to take this room farther from where I have it right now is going to take, like, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars. Individual upgrades to certain elements, speakers, subwoofers, projector, video processor, everything is very, very significantly substantial spending for diminishing returns of additional performance and whatnot. Someday I will take this room probably down to its studs, presuming we still live in this house for the foreseeable future, and plan to for a good ways to come. But that's all just ideas at this point in time. Stay tuned to the channel. We'll see where we go with it, particularly with the upgrades of 2 years ago, switching to the architectural speakers and getting the level up just one another step higher to the AVM 90, to the quad, SVS subwoofers, and all of that stuff. I've never been more happy with my system, more content with my system than I am right now. Leaving me to wonder, like, what else is there to say in future videos and future content. But stay tuned to the channel. I'm sure I'll come up with a topic or two or some dozens to keep chatting about how to use the space, how to optimize the space, and hopefully give you some takeaways for your own home theater systems. So sound off in the comments. Let me know, do you have any questions about this room, its evolution? If you go back in the history of the videos available on the channel, it hopefully would be an interesting activity for you. You can go watch my earliest tours and my earliest kind of frame of mind and design videos from when I started the channel roughly 2.5 years ago up to today. It's been a journey, it's been a fun one, and again, the performance of this, I would put it up there with most anything else that I've seen or heard, and just completely enamored with the result. So sound off in the comments. Let me know what you want to know. Let me know, hey, what do you think I should do next? What do you see in terms of areas of improvement and anything like that? Otherwise, thanks for watching. Please do all that regular YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, hit the bell, share the video. And absolutely, if you'd like to support the channel, my endeavors, my future upgrades, and the ability to make more content, please shop with my affiliates, Audio Advice in particular, for home theater and hi-fi gear, as well as Amazon. There's also Super Thanks, channel memberships, Venmo and PayPal tips, and more. Thanks so much for watching, and come on back for a bright future ahead of home theater discussion and fun.